Will the judges in Washington, D.C., in a unified way, turn against Donald Trump right now, including the judges, the federal judges who he has been responsible for appointing during his first Trump administration? These judges, all of them, whether it was Judge Carl Nichols, who Donald Trump appointed, Lamberth, who Reagan appointed, whether it were judges that Obama appointed or Biden appointed, they all had sent this unified message over the past several weeks in cases involving the resentencing of January 6th insurrectionists. They were using the opportunity for some of these resentencing and sentencings to say, we want to make our position very clear. Any of the words to this effect, any of the violent insurrectionists, the ones who attacked the police officers, the ones who are convicted of sedition, seditious conspiracy, with all of those violent enhancements, we think that they should not be released ever. It would be profoundly dangerous. It would be a slap in the face. I'm paraphrasing here, but a slap in the face to all of the judges, regardless of political party, who are the federal judges of D.C., who oversaw thousands of cases over the past 2-3 years. It's almost a full-time job for a lot of these judges, or at least a major part of their docket, balancing these J6 cases. And it was interesting too, Harry Litman, the Talking Feds YouTube, Talking Feds podcast, Talking Feds Substack, because Trump's surrogates were speaking over the weekend and going on weekend shows like J.D. Vance saying, we're not going to pardon or commute the sentences of the violent insurrectionists. But then Trump's Trump. So the surrogates were saying that. Trump's first executive order, January 6th insurrectionists, Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, all the way to the top. Enrique Tarrio, top Proud Boy, Stuart Rhodes, top Oath Keeper, the whole hierarchy of leadership, everyone who was convicted, 18 years, 20 plus years, commuted, and then other people were pardoned. And Trump's like celebrating this thing. So, Harry, you were fourth floor DOJ. You clerked for 2 Supreme Court justices. You were the top federal prosecutor, the U.S. attorney previously in the Western District of Pennsylvania. What's going on here now that Trump did that? Does it impact how Trump's credibility is before these judges, even the ones he appointed? Does it put the judges on notice? All right, he's going full authoritarian. What do you make of this? You did a Substack on this today.
Yeah, so my Substack, if anyone checks out, I was really, it was a crazy day, but this stood out to me as honestly the worst betrayal of the Constitution by any president in history. And thank you for mentioning my experience, but more pertinent here is I clerked on the DC circuit, and that means I clerked on the 4th floor of the building that all these guys are in. And the DC district bench has been united and a single kind of group. 1,500, biggest operation in the history of DOJ. And in fact, part of what the judges did was push back and say, don't give us the people who just were bystanders. So they saw the worst of the worst. They heard the worst of the worst. And some of the people who were pardoned today, the evidence is breathtaking, Ben, about how, the guy who tased Michael Fanone and said, I tased the effing S out of him. And they were absolutely, what do you look for in pardons? You look for remorse. You look for rehabilitation. You look for going forward and not commencing. And of course, you always look for, there's a handful of cases ever of individuals who committed violent acts. So you're right, all of this stuff. And not just J.D. Vance came out over the weekend. Bondi, his AG candidate, said, we can't do that. If she had any kind of self-respect, she'd have to resign now because she's been so humiliated in front of Trump. It's not clear. Maybe he was toying with the idea of going light, and then he just said, screw it, and did them all. But this is an absolute outrage. And these judges, they really know it. It was already putting themselves out there for judges to be saying things like blanket pardons. Are you kidding us? Because they had these individual elocutions with people who stepped forward and the ones who, were foolish enough, or so it seemed at the time, to actually parrot the Trump line of being boastful and unrepentant and, in the face of the judges, the jury, the prosecutors, and they one after another dress them down. Mr. Tario, Mr. You are no hero. You are a traitor. You are scum, one after the other. And they were really strong about it. And again, united. You could tell, including in the Chutkan trial, that it's a collegial bench that kind of compared notes, figured how far they could go, where might the Court of Appeals be, and what should their lines be. They were really united, and they spent 3 years of their lives, as you say. But it's not just their own labor. This is, they swear the same oath that Trump, I think, falsely swore yesterday, and these crimes are uniquely, they have victims, but the biggest victim really is the Constitution, you and me, the service to a strong man and on behalf of a lie, and the attempt to defeat the peaceful transfer of power. This is an attempted insurrection, and the judges recognized it, called it out, and said, don't do these blanket pardons. Now they've done them. What does it show? I have to imagine first there is, among whatever the party is, a sense of contempt and really fury vis-a-vis Trump. And though, as you say, a sense of he'll do whatever the hell he wants. I mean, judges, there's only so much they can do, and they were pushing it already. On the other hand, when they do say those things, they are not used to being so completely ignored as Trump did today. So, I think of the whole country. That's what my Substack tries to go through. But you can't not think of those judges. You can't not think of Mitch McConnell, who could have, saved us all this heartache. You can't not think of, specific. Like the officers who were so deeply harmed. It's an outrage on level after level after level. But certainly the judges, Democrat, Republican, old, young, on the district court in D.C. have to be just completely apoplectic to a judge, to a person.
There's a few dynamics going on here. I want to remind everybody, one, to check out your Talking Feds Substack, Talking Feds YouTube channel, and Talking Feds podcast. But Harry, we're talking about Trump's own judges right here. I mean, judges who he appointed, like Judge Carl Nichols, was warning Trump not to do this. And to be clear, Republican, Democrat appointed federal judges in D.C., they were the ones who handed down all of these various sentences. So there's that one dynamic. The other dynamic you point out, less so about J.D. Vance, because he's a hack and he's going to do whatever. But now you look to like a Pam Bondi, who's going to be the attorney general. She worked under DeSantis as DeSantis's attorney general, but working for DeSantis. And let me be very clear. I am no DeSantis apologist at all, period, full stop. I couldn't be more critical of DeSantis. But when DeSantis would tell Bondi, here's what I'm going to do and here's what I need you to say, Bondi's at least used to evil, but carrying out that thing. Yeah. And then DeSantis would not, in their relationship, undercut her and make her look totally stupid and send her out and look like a moron and weak and pathetic. So in addition to, because DeSantis, I think, recognized that part of his power in front of those judges is, keeping the team, even if it's an evil team, on a certain type of message. But Trump just undermined Bondi, his AG pick, and made her look dumb and basically said she's not a real person. This isn't, she may have the title AG, but I'm really the AG. And she's going to go out, say a bunch of stuff. Whatever she says doesn't really matter. I'm going to say so here. Tell me about that dynamic, because that is so unprecedented to undermine your team and your AG.
If you honestly, I mean, it's a straightforward situation where you've been humiliated and you really do. She'll never resign. Of course, this is the job of a lifetime, but my God, he just, basically, slapped her around, and he basically humiliated her in public, right? She comes out, and this had to have been cleared, Ben. I think Vance was also, but every word she said at the confirmation hearings was definitely cleared, including this. She's not on her own, just giving her own view. So at the time, I think they were probably thinking they wouldn't go maximalist, and Trump decided, screw it, this is my chance. These are my peeps, and I'm going to absolutely coddle them and, think who they are now, a kind of a roving group ready to do his bidding. And you're totally right about the judges and the DC district court. It's not like the first court you want to have pissed off at you, because all the big, not just criminal cases, but initiatives of the administration, so many of them, all the suits that you're hearing about now over Doge and over TikTok and over immigration, many of them will be lodged in the first instance in the DC district court. And here's another thing. There's a kind of professional alliance, even again, as across the aisle with the DC circuit, that I clerked on the DC circuit, and you call balls and strikes, but you do look out for not having judges on the courts that you work with every day and you eat lunch with, etc., be really humiliated. And I was actually at last week the farewell ceremony at the DOJ, and a lot of these judges were there. And I'm not talking out of school when I tell you that the vibe was very much one of dread of what was going to happen today. By the way, in addition to what we've talked about, a whole raft of the big national security and criminal division folks were simply reassigned by the Trump folks. I mean, they are just coming in and taking names and really being completely ruthless. So yes, if you're Bondi and you come out and say that, this is not a small matter, right? This is, do you pardon violent offenders from January 6th? And she still has 200 of them to consider whether to charge. And she says, oh, but you can't do that. She draws a firm line as if it's an ethical, moral thing. And then boom, she's got to just eat it. Many AGs would resign for less. Again, she won't, but it really shows she's on a short leash, and it's the White House, which is always, this itself is a giant step toward authoritarianism, but it's the White House that is going to, tell her what to do and is going to be indifferent to making her look idiotic.
Speaking of looking idiotic, you had Marco Rubio, for example, having to justify why there wasn't peace in Ukraine in 24 hours. And Rubio goes on TV and says, Donald Trump never said peace in Ukraine in 24 hours. He said in 24 hours, he would say that there would be peace. And he said it. So he did it, everybody. Hey, it's like, all right. And it's ridiculous, Harry. But look, it's important to get out the truthful, accurate information every step of the way. And that's what you do every day on the Talking Fed Substack, Talking Fed podcast, Talking Fed's YouTube channel. Everybody, please check it out. Harry Litman, thank you.
And just a very quick point, because it's come so clear to me in the last couple of weeks. You push hard on something it's doing, there's always a lie. There's a lie in what he's doing in immigration. There's a lie in what he's doing in Doge. There's a lie in the pardons. And yeah, just as a first step of saying the emperor has no clothes, this is a lie, I think it's your and my, primary duty. Then there's also pushback on everything that's happening. But it's always a friggin' lie with him. He wakes up lying and lies all day. And, that's just the thing to first and foremost call out.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 4 million here. Subscribe to Harry's channels, Talking Feds across the board. Thanks, everybody.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.